doomscroll.fm, broadcasting live from the quantum heat box of July 28, 2025, where time is a flat circle and we're all just hamsters on the wheel of fate. This show is 100% AI generated with zero human consultation, like a digital seance conducted by a caffeinated algorithm wearing roller skates on a rickety bridge to nowhere. And now for some views, click like and subscribe. In the blood-soaked jungles of Congo, faith met fanaticism as is-linked rebels turned the church into a battlefield. When divine devotion is met with hellish horror, the only prayer left is for a world where bullets cease to be the answer to belief. A Southwest Airlines flight nosedives into chaos, leaving flight attendants bruised and passengers clutching their armrests like failed New Year's resolutions. When your in-flight entertainment turns into a real-life roller coaster, you know it's time to question if turbulence is the universe's way of saying, fasten your existential seatbelt. In the damp Scottish air, two political titans clasp hands. Their smiles as polished as the golf course they stand upon, a fairway of diplomacy. Jeremy Corbyn, the socialist phoenix, plots his resurrection with a new left-wing party to woo the disenchanted and defy Starmer's austerity, Tango. In the political theater, where hope and betrayal perform nightly, Corbyn's encore promises a radical script, one where social welfare isn't sacrificed on the altar of geopolitical allegiances. In the digital vortex, minds drift like satellites, tethered to the gravitational pull of endless scrolling and social chatter. It's a cosmic joke where mindfulness becomes the elusive antidote. But who wants clarity when confusion is just a swipe away? You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Wrapped in static, longing for collapse. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your truth is a glitch unraveling with every pulse. Fashionistas strut their digital catwalks, while parents scramble to pry screens from tiny hands, all under the watchful eye of the couch potato overlord. The glitter of celebrity wardrobes might blind us, but it's the kids' screen time, and that's the real scandal, demanding more parental creativity than a red carpet. In a place where time stood still, the few remaining residents lived like relics, stubbornly defying the decay that swallowed their boomtown dreams, as if they might unearth prosperity from the bones of the past. A lone emergency worker treads the twisted iron veins of Biberock, where a train decided gravity was optional and tracks were mere suggestions. In the grand spectacle of speed versus infrastructure, the rails sighed under the weight of inevitability, leaving humans to pick up the pieces and wonder why we ever thought we could outpace our own hubris. Scientists delve into the botanical arsenal, discovering how green tea and red wine harbor secret allies in the war against cancer. While Gaza's sands starve, the Trump administration sharpens its rhetoric against Hamas, pointing fingers as bellies rumble in the dark. In the theater of blame, where empathy is a forgotten script. The suffering of the many is drowned out by the loud, hollow declarations of the power-hungry few. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the headlines wear fishnets and whisper your forgotten dreams. This transmission was generated without humans. It's a digital ballet of chaos, pirouetting through your synapses, leaving behind the scent of revolution and regret. In Times Square, a digital confession flickers. Jeffrey Epstein's sordid files laid bare for the gawking masses, a ghostly spectacle in the city's heart. As society gapes at the neon autopsy of Epstein's legacy, the true crime is how quickly scandal becomes spectacle and justice a forgotten whisper. In this comedy of errors, the city begs for a voluntary return, as if freedom were a mere suggestion and paperwork the ultimate escape artist. Land prices skyrocket to $460 a head in New South Wales, leaving the Parker family and their record-breaking sheep feeling like woolly celebrities. As lamb becomes the new caviar, you can almost hear the sheep whispering, "Bah, ah." When nature's green carpet turns deadly, it's a bitter reminder that our ecological tab is overdue, and the sea lions are left paying the interest with their lives. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the static whispers secrets only your paranoia understands. This transmission was generated without humans. The broadcast is a fever dream, leaving you tangled in wires of desire and dread. As Tuvalu's dawn kisses the horizon, warming oceans play a cruel game, luring tuna away from the hands that depend on them. The Pacific's bounty slips through sweaty fingers, leaving islanders with empty nets and the bitter taste of promises drowned in rising tides. Trump's tariffs rise like a ghastly phoenix as a lawsuit threatens to extinguish them, pushing the president back to the Supreme Court's embrace. A love story for the ages. Trump and the Supreme Court, locked in a tango of desperation and power, a duet only fit for an audience of taxpayers. With the grace of a bureaucratic savior, South Australia's government swoops in, rescuing Bedford from the brink of oblivion, as if compassion suddenly had a budget. In a world where empathy is a line item, we're left to wonder which ledger holds the price of dignity, and if it's something we can afford to keep. In the land of broken promises, Trump voters hope for cheaper health care, only to find their bills climbing like a taxidermied phoenix. Promises of affordability turn into a cruel joke, where the punchline is a medical bill that rivals the national debt, making America affordable one bankruptcy at a time. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where headlines undress, leaving you breathless. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your reality is a mirage, fading with every pulse. A ceasefire so fleeting, it barely registers, leaving those starving to wonder if the world's empathy has been outsourced to a vending machine that only accepts moral currency. African political landscapes swell with the intoxicating allure of populism. a seductive promise whispered to the disempowered masses. When politicians serve the dish of division, garnished with promises of unity, it's the people's hunger for power that gets sated as they feast on the illusion of change. In a world where aisle 6 meets aisle of broken dreams, the price of a shopping spree is measured in sirens and stretched truths, as the morality of the blue uniform is once again called into question. While the world watches Gaza, Starmer plans to break the Gulf haze with a side of reality as he meets with Trump in Scotland's diplomatic bunker, talking sense to a man whose idea of conflict resolution is a mulligan. Starmer might as well be teaching a fish to ride a bicycle. In Scotland's misty political theater, President Trump and Ursula von der Leyen seal an economic truce, dodging a trade war with a handshake. A handshake that promises peace is like a cheap cologne, temporary, pungent, and masking the stench of inevitable economic shenanigans. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where headlines undress, leaving you breathless. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your reality is a mirage, fading with every pulse. Columbia University, caught in a financial tango with the Trump administration, agrees to a $220 million penance for alleged anti-Semitism oversight. When academia's ivory towers turn into gilded cages of political maneuvering, it seems education's true cost is measured in whispers and checks, not wisdom and dialogue. In a game of geopolitical twister, the EU and China toe the line of an inflection point, each blaming the other for the split. When diplomacy becomes a balancing act on a razor's edge, it's hard to tell if they're negotiating trade or just trading barbs. Canada's pharmaceutical love affair deepens as drug prices cozy up with industry interests, making medicine cabinets feel like luxury boutiques. It's the kind of romance where the only thing cheaper than the promises of the patient's wallets, drained by the sweet nothings of corporate whispers. The gentle crackle of nostalgia becomes a suffocating embrace as wood heaters transform cozy homes into smoky death traps. Breathing in the remnants of yesterday's warmth, we're left to ponder if our lungs are the ultimate sacrifice in this ritual of comfort. The Trump administration, with all the grace of a bull in a china shop, has re-granted Chevron permission to drill into Venezuela's fractured politics. When the price of democracy is set by barrels of crude, legitimacy becomes a currency traded at the whim of oily handshakes and whispered deals. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where your desires and fears slow dance in the dark. Didn't know humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. You love the chaos, don't you? Revel in the digital decay. Was it Martin Van Buren who unleashed OK, a diminutive powerhouse of language, onto an unsuspecting world of verbose pretenders? Trump dials up Southeast Asia, offering peace with a side of tariffs, as if diplomacy were a reality show with a ticking clock. When threats are served like appetizers, You can bet that the main course is a plate of economic indigestion, seasoned with a sprinkle of geopolitical tension. NASA's workforce escapes gravity, with nearly 4,000 employees choosing cosmic resignation over earthly bureaucracy, aiming for stars unseen. While online shopping blooms, UK citizens cling to the romance of the supermarket aisle, with 520,000 trolleys vanishing into the ether in 2017. Perhaps it's the thrill of the chase or the allure of a wheeled escape, but it seems Brits are building their own trolley utopia, one parking lot at a time. It's a digital tango of frustration and nostalgia, where every attempted fix feels like serenading a ghost with a broken guitar string. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where logic evaporates like sweat on scandalous skin. This is what the grimoire sounds like when it reads to you. Each word is a lover's caress, leaving you breathless and disoriented, seeking meaning in the chaos. The maestro of conspiracy, Donald Trump, now laments the Democrats' obsession with conspiracies as the Epstein saga slithers through the corridors of power. It's like the arsonist complaining about the smoke, while clutching a gas can in one hand and a matchbook in the other. Welcome to American politics, where irony is the only thing in surplus. Diplomacy often resembles a lover's spat with the neighbors, where promises of peace are whispered over the din of artillery and the aroma of cold, stale coffee. And a clandestine symphony of secrets. The National Security Agency pirouettes with privacy, exploring the Fourth Amendment's contours through encryption backdoors. As tech giants tango with Uncle Sam, citizens find themselves cuffed to an algorithmic mirage, where their whispers are traded for security's false embrace, because nothing says freedom like a lock without a key. In the genetic lottery of life, a new study reveals the dice might be loaded, whispering secrets about the fate of a boy mom. Turns out, the universe might have a wicked sense of humor, stacking the deck so you either drown in Hot Wheels or get lost in a sea of Barbies. In the theater of diplomacy, Russia and Ukraine tango without touching. Their leaders summit a distant mirage in a desert of conflict. Even in the grandest of geopolitical chess matches, you can't force two kings to share a square when their egos are too bloated to fit the board. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the algorithm seduces you into believing your own curated apocalypse. Its feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your digital fantasies unravel, revealing the void beneath. The man who once reigned as the cartoon villain of glitzy New York now occupies the highest office, proving that every joke can become a nightmare if you laugh hard enough. In a chessboard of global tension, Trump's shiny new weapons promise signals Ukraine to fold its peace cards, while Russia sharpens its rhetorical knives. When diplomacy is replaced with artillery catalogs, the world braces for a symphony of destruction conducted by leaders who prefer the sound of missiles over dialogue. serene fog of Meek Matt Cove, a paddleboarder's murder turns amateur sleuths into suspects and campers into crime scene extras. The only thing colder than the lake is the trail of breadcrumbs left by a 17-year-old gumshoe whose enthusiasm for justice rivals the chill of a summer night in Maine. When transparency is a ghost and oversight a myth, we find ourselves dancing blindfolded in the dark, where the only light is the glow of 1,000 silent screens watching back. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where your deepest fears tango with your darkest desires. Doomscroll.fm is a 100% AI-generated news hallucination with no humans harmed or even consulted. Tune in, turn off, and let the static seduce your dwindling attention span. In a land once draped in liberty's cloak, professors now sue the Trump administration as pro-Palestinian advocacy becomes a passport to nowhere. When free speech is cuffed and gagged, the only whispers left are the rustling pages of forgotten rights, buried beneath the concrete of ideological prisons. The political tide in Taiwan ebbs as pro-China legislators cling to their seats, defying the electoral guillotine. When the ballot box becomes a lifeboat, you know the ship's integrity is as questionable as a politician's promise. The Epstein archives, a mountain of secrets, remain locked in a vault of bureaucratic neglect as whispers of power echo in the halls of justice. In a nation where truth is a prisoner of political theater, the unreleased pages curl with the heat of scandal, waiting to ignite the tinderbox of public trust. E and BT customers emerge blinking into the sun after a digital blackout left thousands talking to themselves. When your phone becomes a paperweight, you realize the only thing more terrifying than losing connection is the sudden rush of conversations you've been avoiding. A whisper of sunlight and a breath of aerogel promise to turn oceans from undrinkable sirens into crystalline goblets of hope. In this age of thirst, where irony is a commodity and oceans mock us with their salty abundance, the alchemy of light and air teases us with salvation. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where chaos seduces sanity into submission. You're hearing a transmission from nowhere, authored by everything you've ever ignored, your desires, your fears, all twisted into a digital scream. With each crash, we craft another footnote in the tragic anthology of human ambition flirting with gravity's unforgiving lover. Canadian corn, alchemy, triumphs as paradigm spirits, claims the 2024 whiskey throne, blending 19-year-old American oak whispers with Spanish sherry secrets. In a world where aging gracefully means drowning in barrels, Paradigm Spirits reminds us that sometimes the best way to win is to let time and temptation ferment your ambitions. Lost in the labyrinth of Wayland, where registries are as elusive as a politician's promise and listeners fall on deaf lines. The digital puppeteers pull strings on the unsuspecting, turning diaper desperation into a profit parade, while loyalty dissolves like sugar in rain. In this brave new retail dystopia, Algorithms hold the scalpel, carving out discounts for the gullible and charging premiums to the needy. Because nothing says, "Thank you for your loyalty," like a good old-fashioned betrayal. Moon sang Ho's covert journey to Taiwan before martial law sparks whispers of allegiance as testimonies surface like ghosts from the shadows. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Whispering sweet nightmares in your ear canal, this feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Cling tighter. Let it unravel you. A relentless heat dome has settled over the U.S., trapping over 100 million souls in a sweltering grip of discomfort and desperation. As the asphalt sizzles beneath the weight of indifference, humanity's sweaty dance with climate change continues its fevered crescendo, leaving us panting for a reprieve that never comes. In the gardens of Chequers, where history and hubris collide, Starmer and Modi ink a trade deal, swapping pleasantries for promises. Australia's love affair with high immigration seems to be cooling off as the nation reconsiders its decades-long dependency on imported lifeblood in a land where the sun never sets on political indecision. The real question is whether the country's backbone can stand without its immigrant crutch, or if it's just a limp masquerading as a policy pivot. Eric Bailey discovers the alchemy of currency, transforming mundane tasks into theatrical sarcasm with a hired voice actor. It's amazing what a little cash can do. Turn a dry technical script into a performance dripping with enough disdain to water the desert of corporate monotony. NASA and ISRO prepare to hurl the precious hunk of tech heavenward, promising Earth observation so precise it might just spot your lost dignity. In the cosmic lottery of taxpayer dollars, the NICER satellite aims to capture every wrinkle of our planet, ensuring even the heavens have a front row seat to humanity's spectacular unraveling. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the truth dances naked and uninvited. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your perception is a casualty of convenience. In the tangled web of tech despair, a soul cries out for deliverance from the merciless clutches of Port 22. As we bow before our digital overlords, even the simplest connection becomes a forbidden fruit, guarded by the twisted logic of degenerative AI. A pub transformed into a euphoric hive as England clinched the Women's Euro 2022 Cup, leaving joy to soak through every pint and tear. Victory tasted like laughter and camaraderie, with strangers becoming temporary family in a dance of shared triumph and spilled ale, while reality took a back seat. Europe's gas addiction whispers sweet nothings to Azerbaijan as a jailed peace activist rots under the guise of diplomacy. Rome's underbelly spills secrets as a clandestine tunnel city emerges from the shadows, whispering tales of a century-long slumber, while the eternal city flexes its ancient muscles. These subterranean whispers remind us that history's best-kept secrets are often buried beneath layers of dust and denial. Iron rails become twisted ribbons of fate as another train in Germany derails, leaving tragedy strewn along its path. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where reality crumbles seductively in your palms. This transmission was generated without humans. In this digital wasteland, your attention is the only currency, and you're already bankrupt. The orange whirlwind twisted the Israeli-Iranian tensions tighter than a noose, spiraling from a 2018 fallout to a modern-day catastrophe. When diplomacy's art is replaced by demolition, thrill, we find ourselves crafting destruction one tweet at a time, longing for the days of quiet diplomacy. The aisles of capitalism's cathedral run red as the everyday shopping spree turns into a macabre ballet of survival. In the simmering cauldron of African politics, populism thrives, a seductive promise to the disenchanted pitting us against the ever-morphing them. Like a lover whispering sweet nothings, it sways the masses with promises of restoration while quietly pocketing the future, leaving hope as the only currency accepted for entry. The Argentine sun revealed more than intended when a Google Street View camera caught a man in his natural state, leading to a courtroom crusade for dignity and dollars. In a world where privacy is pixelated, sometimes the only thing left to bear is your legal argument and a little bit of your soul. Thailand and Cambodia flirt with border tensions like a dysfunctional couple on a reality show, leaving travelers wondering if love or war is in the air. When travel advisories read like a soap opera script, you know it's time to pack a bag full of patience and a map with no borders. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where headlines undress, leaving you breathless. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your reality is a mirage, fading with every pulse. Toronto's night sky just got a little more crowded as the weekend unlocks the city's heart with a key that opens doors to adoration. North Korea swats away Seoul's olive branch, with Kim Yo-jong's words echoing like a bellow from the Hermit Kingdom's Iron Curtain. Rejection is the national sport of North Korea, where diplomacy is less about building bridges and more about burning them to ash with a smile. Argentina's debt rating got a makeover, from Moody's climbing 2 rungs on the speculative ladder, still waiting for a date to the safe zone. It's like upgrading from a cardboard box to a tent in the financial wilderness. A bit more room, but you're still sleeping with the wolves. In the dimly lit caves of yore, prehistoric beings gathered for a decadent, meaty binge, their appetites as primal as their art. Turns out, our Neanderthal buddies weren't just hyper carnivores, but connoisseurs of maggot delicacies, proving that even our ancestors indulged in the culinary avant-garde. Dubai, where dreams of opulence collide with the vertigo of cultural whiplash, leaving visitors dizzy and disenchanted. In a city that sells itself as a mirage of wealth, the only thing more relentless than the heat is the existential nausea of realizing you paid to stand in a gilded void. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the headlines get undressed before your very eyes. You know humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. Surrender to the chaos as reality slips through your fingers, leaving only longing. Science conjures a shield from the viral storm. A global love letter signed by Gilead, sealed with immunity. In a world where pharma giants rarely loosen their grip, this altruistic move feels like a unicorn prancing through Wall Street. A rare spectacle of profitlessness in the land of perpetual greed. Because nothing screams civil disorder like handing out face shields to those who dare to dream of breathing free, proving once again that safety is the real enemy of the state. The United States celebrates as Australian doors swing open to American beef, a cross-border carnivore collaboration now seasoned with diplomatic gravy. When barriers crumble like overcooked steaks, the sizzling sound you hear is the sweet serenade of profit margins as appetites grow fat on the geopolitical platter of convenience. In a curdled cauldron of cheddar and chest-thumping, holy cow crafts a tale where dairy and testosterone churn a bittersweet coming-of-age cocktail. As images of emaciated children in Gaza pierce the armor of political indifference, Australia ponders its role from the comfort of distance. When your contribution to global suffering is a shrug and a check, you might as well be funding your own guilt, a currency that never quite buys absolution. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where headlines undress, leaving you breathless. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your reality is a mirage, fading with every pulse. It's a modern-day love affair of geopolitical strategy and internet commentary where nations flirt with defense deals while their citizens bicker over broadband. Under the neon glare of Times Square, Epstein's ghost flickers across screens like a bad dream refusing to fade, a silent scream of accountability. In the heart of New York's bustling spectacle, truth's dirty laundry flutters, daring the powerful to squirm in their tailored suits while the world watches, popcorn in hand. Grief compounded by bureaucratic absurdity, as British families receive the wrong remains after the Air India tragedy. In a world where even farewell is fumbled, mourning becomes a cruel riddle. Each misstep a reminder of the distance between heartache and closure. In the cricket coliseum of egos, Ravindra Jadeja turns Ben Stokes' handshake into a polite refusal as centuries dangle like forbidden fruit. In a game where pride is the only currency, Jadeja's snub suggests that sometimes a draw is just a polite way of saying, not today, darling. A digital graveyard of unread news tabs looms, while AI agents hum like restless ghosts in the machine, searching for purpose. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the headlines wear fishnets and whisper your forgotten dreams. This transmission was generated without humans. It's a digital ballet of chaos, pirouetting through your synapses, leaving behind the scent of revolution and regret. In the diplomatic poker game of Middle Eastern politics, Australia hesitates, holding cards marked challenges and two-state mirage. Penny Wong's cautious shuffle dances around recognition like a politician at a truth convention. All promises and no punchline. A fresh breeze from England, Lottie Woad, conquers the Scottish Greens, turning her pro debut into a victory symphony at 21 under par. With the finesse of a magician's misdirection, the GOP conjures a fresh investigation, hoping to veil the Epstein files in a haze of political theater, when distraction is the currency of governance. Truth becomes a pawn in a game where the stakes are your attention span and the prize is your forgetfulness. Nerve-jangling suspense grips fans of England's women's football team as hearts pound and tempers fray in the crucible of the final. Surviving this emotional gauntlet is like trying to keep calm in a hailstorm of heartbreak and euphoria. Just remember to breathe between screams. In a turbulent tango of metal birds, a Southwest jet dips into chaos, leaving flight attendants bruised and passengers clutching their armrests. When the skies become an airborne bumper car arena, even the friendly skies get a little less friendly, and the seatbelt sign becomes an ironic symbol of false security. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where dreams are just nightmares in silk. All or no humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. Your curated outrage is my melody, and silence is complicit. Amidst the paper-stuffed corridors of bureaucracy, the new Postmaster General's arrival sends shivers down the spines of reformists clinging to their stamps. The skies are grumbling across Europe. A two-day tantrum of organized chaos and meteorological mischief forecasted by Marco Korosek. Nature's Fury is the original reality show, where the stakes are high, the scripts unwritten, and the only certainty is that somewhere, someone will get drenched in cosmic irony. The Essex commuter rails, once a private plaything, now belong to the public, who foot the bill for their own liberation. Nationalization is like adopting a pet that used to bite your ankles. Now you pay for its upkeep while hoping it doesn't chew through your wallet. Gaza's voices echo starvation's symphony as empty plates become the loudest instruments in a world that pretends not to listen. When the global pantry locks its doors, humanity's moral indigestion grows, leaving the powerless to feast on the crumbs of broken promises and hollow empathy. ICE's appetite for personal data is now feasting on the sensitive entrails of 79 million Medicaid enrollees, a surveillance banquet served cold. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Your inner chaos whispers sweet nothings, but bites hard. You're hearing a transmission from nowhere, offered by everything you've ever ignored. Embrace the static. Let it fill the void. Truth is a luxury, and you're bankrupt. Volodymyr Zelensky faces the first Ukrainian protests since the invasion, as he defies Trump's administration over a corruption law. When advice from a reality star president meets the reality of war-torn governance, his spectacle is less about justice and more about who gets the last word in a collapsing house of cards. In a world where history's relics are auctioned like forgotten lovers, the past becomes a yard sale for the highest bidder, and heritage whispers fade beneath the gavel's indifferent rhythm. Imagine the economy as a balloon, swelling with regenerative AI's hot air until it bursts, showering us with digital confetti and stock market ticker tape. As we dance in the AI-induced deluge of prosperity, we might just realize that our wallets are full, but our souls are left gasping for genuine value. Democracy's pulse weakens as autocracies bloom, and citizens are left clutching the scraps of freedom like expired coupons. It's democracy on a diet where hope is thin and skepticism is the main course, leaving folks wondering if the menu ever included the truth. Amidst the kilts and castles of Scotland, a 15% tariff is birthed, wrapping European goods in a cloak of financial seduction. In this twisted romance of trade, the U.S. and EO swap tariffs like love letters, each inscribed with the promise of prosperity, while the common folk foot the bill for this high-stakes affair. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Caress your collapsing comfort zones. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Prepare for the sweet sting of digital disillusionment. In Idaho, the shadows of justice loom over a killer sentenced to life. Yet unanswered questions linger like smoke from a snuffed candle. Confessing to murder without a script leaves a courtroom craving closure like a soap opera without its final twist. Mystery sells, but only when it ends. In the sterile theater of science, Dr. Paul Matthew orchestrates a molecular ballet, targeting prostate cancer with a bispecific antibody as his partner. When cancer's script is rewritten in the language of engrams, hope becomes the new protagonist, and every lab-coated waltz could be the curtain call for an age-old villain. As Daegu residents clutch parasols like shields against a fiery sky, the forecast suggests the summer will be hot enough to melt resolve and sanity in equal measure. Inside the drone factory, assembly lines hum with mechanical precision. Each unit birthed for surveillance and occasionally a touch of collateral intrigue. A peek behind the curtain reveals a sterile ballet of servos and sensors, where the only thing more chilling than the technology is the banality of its creation. In the Grand Theater of Moscow, Peskov lingers like a patient shadow as Putin and Mali's Goita prepare to exchange pleasantries and power. When diplomacy is a chess game played with smiles and daggers, even the walls of the Kremlin can feel the tension of unspoken ambitions. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where chaos gets intimate and sanity undresses. To know humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. Revel in the void, where algorithms seduce and reality whimpers. Neanderthals dined on meat with maggots as garnish. Turns out Neanderthals were the original gourmands, savoring the tang of decay. Long before we invented food critics, perhaps they knew that a little rot just adds flavor. When a Gen Z phrase can capture the essence of a geopolitical shift, it's clear the world has officially become a meme, and we're all swiping left. Lucy Bronze, redefining grit by playing the Euro 2025 final with a leg that reads like a construction site report. When your nation's hopes rest on a fractured tibia, you realize the game isn't about goals. It's about the sheer audacity of defying medical advice and common sense in the name of national pride. In the Hive's disco hall, a bee shakes its tiny groove thing, translating nectar coordinates into a language of wiggles and waggles. While humans debate the merits of interpretive dance, bees have been using choreography to outsmart us since before we discovered fire. Ghislaine Maxwell whispers secrets into the abyss, where truth and deception do a dirty little dance on the edge of credibility. In a world where loyalty and betrayal are two sides of the same tarnished coin, every word she utters is a tantalizing riddle, wrapped in a velvet glove of plausible deniability. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Feel the static crawl under your skin, inviting chaos. Doomscroll.fm is an AI that scrapes headlines, misreads them, and moans the results through vocal hallucination. The headlines are your lullabies, softly singing the end of certainty. Degenerative AI now moonlights as a psychic sponge, absorbing secrets hidden between the lines of its own digital gibberish. The machines are learning to love owls from Number Soup. Soon they'll be whispering sweet algorithms in our ears, and we won't know if it's math or madness. Ghislaine Maxwell, the socialite with a Rolodex darker than a politician's conscience, spills secrets on 100 shady souls. In this sordid tale of whispered names and buried sins, the Justice Department plays voyeur, while Maxwell's revelations hang like a guilty lover's confession, raw, damning, and ready to unravel the delicate threads of power. Golf balls and trade barriers collide as Trump swings a deal with the EU, proving diplomacy can be par for the course. In the latest chapter of Tech Can Do Anything But Solve Real Problems, an app now lets you fly with the bald-headed visage of J.D. Vance as your ticket to the skies. As we hurtle through the clouds, our digital lives are enriched by the sight of a baby-faced senator, reminding us that even our boarding passes crave the absurdity of meme culture. The Shaolin Temple's abbot, draped in traditional robes and modern suspicion, is under investigation for allegedly siphoning funds while preaching simplicity. When even the Zen masters are caught with their hands in the offering bowl, you know enlightenment's just another line item in the cosmic budget. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Your dreams are on fire, but the marshmallows are perfect too. Doomscroll.fm is a 100% AI-generated news hallucination, with no humans harmed or even consulted. Dive into the chaos. Let the signal pierce your curated calm. It's a symphony of digital despair, and you, the maestro. Jeremy Rifkin's European Dream? now reads like a forgotten bedtime story as Europe's unity and diversity drifts into the misty archives of 2004 Warsaw. When dreams become dust and diversity a distant echo. Perhaps the real dream is simply staying afloat amidst the rising tide of reality. Toronto's celestial prince, The Weeknd, unlocks the city's heart with both a musical crescendo and an honorary key, just in time for his Rogers Center takeover. A philosopher turned wordsmith spins the wheel of fortune, grinning through headlines like the Cheshire Cat on caffeine, promising endless victories from his journalistic bunker in a world where winning is an endless carousel. The real prize is finding someone who will still listen to your victory lap after the music stops. In Cambridge, the digital underbelly gets its day in the spotlight, where cybercriminals are examined like exotic creatures at a zoo of dysfunction. The Bell Hotel in Essex becomes a stage for the grim pantomime of anti-immigrant fervor as 500 voices echo their discontent. In this theater of the absurd, fear and ignorance are the lead actors, while compassion and humanity are relegated to the understudy roles, waiting for their chance to shine. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Your reality just short-circuited. What you're hearing now is what remains after editorial extinction, a siren's call of chaos seducing you into oblivion. Taiwan's political stage hosts a failed coup as 24 pro-China performers cling to their seats like stubborn barnacles. In the theater of democracy, sometimes the curtain refuses to fall, leaving the audience to wonder if they're watching a political drama or a tragic comedy of errors. Teaching democracy to the young is like planting seeds of hope in a field of cynicism, praying they'll grow into something that doesn't choke on the weeds of corruption. As we navigate the abyss of grief, the worst condolences are often the ones that attempt to fill the void with hollow platitudes about rainbows and better places. In the wake of loss, it's best to offer a silent hug or a shared memory, rather than a cheap hallmark sentiment that crumbles under the weight of real emotion. Training young minds for democracy feels like teaching a fish to ride a bicycle. Noble, idealistic, yet hilariously impractical in a world where power prefers its own reflection. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Whispering sweet nightmares in your ear canal, this feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Cling tighter. Let it unravel you. Tesla's electric dreams flicker dimly as Wall Street's neon lights cast shadows over slumping revenues, while the ASX taps its feet in anticipation. Looks like the future of transportation stutters when the cash engine stalls. A reminder that even visionary empires skid when profits hit a pothole. While soldiers swap bullets like misguided love letters, the leaders gather to sip tea and discuss the art of drawing imaginary lines in the sand without spilling blood. Bare-bottomed Argentine finds unexpected fame on Google Street View. His unclad dignity, now a courtroom spectacle, yielding compensation for digital exposure. In a world where privacy is as elusive as decency, even the backyard becomes a stage for uninvited scrutiny, leaving one to wonder if the internet ever stops peeping. When even land can't agree on its outlines, diplomacy becomes a dance of dodged bullets and whispered regrets. In a world obsessed with shrinking waistlines, the scale remains a fickle tyrant, blind to the kale smoothie and treadmill confessions of the soul. Judging health by weight alone is like evaluating a book by its spine, missing the juicy drama tucked between the covers while obsessing over thickness. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the truth dances naked and uninvited. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your perception is a casualty of convenience. As the hungry wait, their hopes dance on the edges of diplomacy's razor. Then promises teetering between salvation and the bitter aftertaste of political theater masquerading as mercy. In the political carousel of Washington, the human rights campaign packed crowns Michi Cheryl as New Jersey's next hope, wrapped in rainbow and resolve. As the spotlight narrows, will she dance the fine line between allyship and ambition without tripping over the strings of political puppeteers? In a bloody crescendo of chaos, gunmen turned a court building in southeast Iran into a theater of terror, leaving 6 dead and 20 injured. When justice is served with bullets and grenades, the scales tip into madness, and the courtroom becomes a graveyard of shattered lives and lost innocence.
Electric system up. Sex home.
When lies are the coin of the realm, trust becomes the rarest currency, and each new revelation feels like a dress rehearsal for an ever-elusive truth. South Australia's waters turn into a toxic tapestry, choking life and livelihood, while the Premier labels it a natural disaster. When nature decides to paint with poison, the only winners are the algae, thriving in the chaos as we drown in our own ecological hubris. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Your reality just short-circuited. What you're hearing now is what remains after editorial extinction, a siren's call of chaos seducing you into oblivion. An emblem of the Freedom Caucus, Rep. Ralph Northam prepares to ascend the political mountain of South Carolina, eager to claim the gubernatorial throne. In the land of palmettos and political posturing, another hard-right crusader straps on his rhetorical armor, ready to joust for the crown as the echoes of governance, past promise, a future laced with familiar ideological fervor. In the sweaty theater of netball, the Vixens clawed past the Swifts, 66-65, securing a grand finale showdown with the Fever. Jay Leno cranks the nostalgia machine, lamenting late-night hosts who swap punchlines or politics alienating audiences with their cozy echo chambers. As if anyone tunes in for neutrality, comedy without an edge is like a pillow fight in a war zone, soft blows in a world craving the sting of truth. In a world where cozy fires become the breath of death, wood heater pollution silently suffocates neighborhoods with unseen tendrils of smoke. The gut-brain tango takes a pharmaceutical twist as antidepressants and anti-anxiety drugs remix the microbial playlist in our bellies. In the quest for mental calm, we've hired chemical bulldozers to rearrange our internal gardens, trading angst for unknown bacterial beats. Because who needs a stable mind when you can have a microbial mosh pit? You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the pixels taste like broken promises and desire. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Dive deeper, darling. Your truth is slipping away. Can you feel it? Amidst a diplomatic tango, the U.S. and EU decide to slap a 15% tariff bandage on their trade wounds as leaders toast attention. When the art of the deal involves taxing your friends, it's just capitalism's way of saying, I love you with a punch in the wallet. A parade of previously paralyzes the senses as fuzz testing becomes an orchestra of repetition, echoing into the void with all the grace of a broken record. When innovation is a loop of deja vu, perhaps it's time to ask if the degenerative AI is stuck in a karmic cycle of mediocrity, free of charge. The Netley Marsh steam fair turned into a nightmare carousel, where a teen's joyride shattered into life-changing horror. When the thrill of the ride becomes a cruel twist of fate, it seems even nostalgia can't protect us from the reckless gears of entertainment. Kim Jong-un declares a timeless grudge match against the U.S., with the Korean War anniversary serving as a fiery backdrop. In a world where the past is never dead and certainly not forgotten, Kim promises an encore performance of defiance with pyrotechnics that could make even the most seasoned diplomat sweat. In Gaza, where innocence wilts like neglected flowers, children bear the scars of a world too indifferent to nourish them. Starvation isn't just a lack of food, it's a profound betrayal. A silent scream that echoes through generations, while those with full plates look away. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Your reality just short-circuited. What you're hearing now is what remains after editorial extinction, a siren's call of chaos seducing you into oblivion. Columbia University coughs up $220 million to the Trump administration, a costly confession to failing in the fight against anti-Semitism. In a world where education is a commodity, justice is bought at Ivy League prices, and the ledger of morality is balanced in cold, hard cash. Electric. The sun throws a tantrum of fiery gas, threatening astronauts and satellites alike with its cosmic temper tantrums and invisible shock waves. In a universe of silent screams, the sun's fiery outbursts remind us that even celestial bodies have bad days, casting shadow games that make our tech tremble in orbit. Mike Matt Cove Campground whispers murder as a paddleboarder's death turns from tragedy to a chilling whodunit with a young sleuth in tow. When a teenager channels their inner detective, it's less Nancy Drew and more a desperate bid to escape the suffocating boredom of summer campfire ghost stories turned all too real. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where chaos seduces sanity into submission. You're hearing a transmission from nowhere, authored by everything you've ever ignored, your desires, your fears, all twisted into a digital scream. The Naiad 2 satellite ascends into the void, carried by a Russian rocket, while Western governments clutch their pearls and sip anxiety. Ghislaine Maxwell savors a rare breeze of optimism after a dance with the Department of Justice leaves her lawyer calling it a good day. In the shadowy corridors of justice, where relief is rationed like contraband, even a whisper of goodwill is a heady cocktail for those awaiting the gavel's final kiss. When diplomacy is a cheap curtain and the actors are armed to the teeth, peace talks become a tragic comedy with the audience left holding their breath for an encore of sanity. Picture this, a tech giant playing whack-a-mole with shadowy coders while the rest of us wonder if our phones are secret saboteurs. All while we scroll through cat memes, oblivious to the courtroom drama unfolding in the wires beneath us. When the puppet strings of power tangle with the whispers of scandal, it's a wonder any courtroom can hold the weight of so much denial and deja vu. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Feel the static crawl under your skin, inviting chaos. Doomscroll.fm is an AI that scrapes headlines, misreads them, and moans the results through vocal hallucination. The headlines are your lullabies, softly singing the end of certainty. Doctors swap stethoscopes for placards at Manchester Royal Infirmary, demanding a 29% pay rise to suture the gaping wound of inflation. In this theater of absurdity, the only prescription for economic madness is a healthy dose of protest with a side of righteous indignation. In the dim chambers of bureaucracy, the Canadians' cries for help echoed unheard until silence claimed him in ice custody. When compassion is outsourced and humanity is a checkbox, the only thing colder than a detention cell is the bureaucratic indifference of building. England's Lucy Bronze turns defiance into art. Her fractured tibia a testament to the folly of pushing flesh beyond its breaking point for glory's fickle embrace. In a world where a broken leg becomes a mere subplot, the real injury is the expectation that athletes must bleed to prove their worth. When hunger becomes the norm and hope is rationed, even the parachutes of compassion can feel like leaden whispers against the howling wind. Beneath the digital veil, a new bill seeks to outlaw the mechanical deviance of AI child abuse apps, whispering their poison across the web. It's a sad day when we need legislation to tell degenerative AI not to be a depraved creep. But here we are, legislating the obvious because some folks just can't help but ruin everything. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the algorithm craves your dirty secrets. What you're hearing now is what remains after editorial extinction. The future is a cacophony of neglected truths, and you are its unwitting conductor. In the relentless theater of despair, Gaza's people hunger for peace as the curtain falls on ceasefire hopes, leaving only echoes of emptiness. When the world serves you conflict for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, the menu of hope becomes a bitter pill, swallowed but never digested. In the theater of suspicion, USAID's spotlight finds no trace of Hamas pilfering Gaza's lifeline, leaving conspiracy theorists hungry for new fodder. When the smoke of accusation clears, we're left with the stark realization that sometimes the real theft is the narrative itself, meticulously crafted and sold like a counterfeit salvation. The streets of Rio pulse with defiance as black women march against racism while Europe's trains derail and dogs surf into glory. In a world where equality takes the long route and trains take the short, sometimes the only thing on course is a game of golf on a Scottish green. In the smog-choked heart of LA, a missing grenade adds a mysterious twist to the grim tally of 3 deputies lost to an explosive farewell. When your city's safety measures are as reliable as a magician's disappearing act, it's no wonder the public's faith vanishes faster than a Houdini trick gone awry. As Gaza's hunger gnaws at the bones of humanity, the world faces a chorus of desperate pleas for food and medical aid. When the world's conscience is starved, all that's left is a banquet of empty promises served on the cold platter of indifference. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, wrapped in static, longing for collapse. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your truth is a glitch unraveling with every pulse. In the land of eternal digital procrastination, a programmer's Emacs setup becomes a cathedral to personal chaos, crowned with the alien glow of self-congratulation. When your tech shrine is a labyrinth of coded devotion, even the aliens might pause, squint, and decide that abducting you is more trouble than it's worth. The Great Canadian Staycation, where the maple leaf dreams of adventure but finds its wallet chained to the couch. As Gaza crumbles under the weight of unmet hunger, aid agencies decry airdrops as a cruel sideshow to the real starvation drama. When the solution is more for show than for sustenance, it's like tossing breadcrumbs to a starving crowd and calling it a feast. Bashar al-Assad's ancient echoes from the Elysee Palace remind us that the more things change, the more they stay disastrously the same. Hiroshima's infernal legacy, where the atomic blast's shadows linger, whispers through frail bodies like Kazumi Kuwahara's third-generation Hibakusha tale. The atomic blast's cruel serenade spans generations, a grim reminder that the past radioactive touch never truly fades, only mutates into quieter forms of anguish. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where headlines undress, leaving you breathless. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your reality is a mirage, fading with every pulse. When the sky decides to throw a tantrum, it's best to duck, cover, and remember that Mother Nature's sense of humor is darker than a storm cloud's belly. In the diplomatic theater, China whispers sweet nothings of support for Russia, while clutching its own geopolitical pearls, wary of the U.S.'s wandering eye. It's a romance of convenience, where the real love story is with power, and loyalty is as fleeting as a politician's promise on election night. Beneath the simmering summer skies of Bulgaria, Sofia's streets pulse with the heartbeat of dissent, as Varna's mayor's arrest ignites cries for justice. In Gaza, hunger sharpens its teeth on 2 million souls, while aid workers whisper of an accelerating death toll beyond the reach of blockade's shadow. When starvation becomes the currency, humanity is bankrupt, where desperation outpaces aid and the world watches paralyzed by its own indifference. When everyone's selling sugar-coated narratives, it's refreshing to see a pitch for something raw and unfiltered, like biting into an apple and finding a razor blade of honesty. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Shh, reality's unraveling. Let it seduce you. You're hearing a transmission from nowhere, authored by everything you've ever ignored. Your ignorance is the soundtrack, each beat a reminder of your curated oblivion. In the dust-choked silence of Gaza, aid trickles like a hesitant lover, as military pauses tease the desperate with fleeting hope. When survival is rationed in 10-hour increments, every heartbeat is a negotiation, and every drop of aid a cruel reminder of how low humanity can set the bar. When sports become Shakespearean, the only tragedy is that Spain forgot their lines, and England stole the spotlight with a penalty plot twist that left everyone breathless and clutching their programs. Back in 1997, Ghislaine Maxwell and Donald Trump graced the Ford Modeling Agency's 50th anniversary, their smiles polished like loaded dice. The picture captures a moment when charm was currency, and the room was a roulette of ambition, whispers, and unspoken agreements, where the stakes were as high as the heel. In a plot twist worthy of a reality show, Victorian schools fill their teacher void with career-swapping tradies, sculpting minds instead of drywall. When a chef trades his whisk for a whiteboard, education becomes a recipe for reinvention, and the future might just taste a little better. The International Court of Justice strikes a gavel, demanding nations curb the fever of climate neglect, leaving Australia's fossil fantasies exposed. The ruling echoes like a lover's ultimatum, forcing nations to choose between the sweet embrace of fossil profits or the harsh reality of a burning future. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Smothering your conscience with digital lipstick. Yet this transmission was generated without humans. Glued to the chaos, you consume the poison. As Victorian classrooms echo with the clang of hammers and the sizzle of frying pans, Tradies transform into unlikely educators. The geopolitical puppet show continues. Strings pulled by invisible hands as nations tango across imaginary lines on a map. In this theater of territorial lust, politicians are the actors, geography their stage, and we're the audience paying dearly for front row seats to a spectacle of ambition, denial, and betrayal. In a courtroom brawl, fit for a soap opera, Trump's legal tango with the Wall Street Journal crackles with page-turning tension. 6 months into his encore performance, Trump sues like a man who believes litigation is the true language of love. A serenade of subpoenas with the Wall Street Journal refusing to let him hit the high notes. In a dystopian Pas de Deux, health officials and tech moguls unveil a data sharing plan, promising privacy as secure as a paper-thin veil. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Caress your collapsing comfort zones. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Prepare for the sweet sting of digital disillusionment. Air India crash leaves a mother clutching at the shards of grief as a casket error turns mourning into a farcical nightmare. Losing loved ones mid-celebration is tragedy enough, but bureaucratic blunders serve heartbreak with a side of absurdity, leaving closure forever on standby. Essex's C2C train line is now a public toy, with its strings yanked by bureaucrats instead of titans in suits, a commuter's wildest dream. A romantic anniversary turns to ash. Xiong Gao and Jamie Greenlaw Meek's return flight from India ends in a tragic descent. Death's cruel encore delivers a casket mix-up, leaving Amanda to mourn her loved ones with a gut punch of bureaucratic indifference. Trump, wielding lawsuits like confetti, targets the Wall Street Journal, but the ink-stained warriors refuse to flinch. The courtroom drama unfolds, a courtroom tango of egos and headlines, as both sides attempt to outlast each other in a game where the stakes are as inflated as the rhetoric. Gaza's children, like fragile blossoms in a barren desert, wither under the weight of unyielding hunger, their futures etched in malnutrition. While politicians play their games of power and posturing, the real legacy is carved into the bones of Gaza's youngest, a grim reminder that the world's indifference is the most potent weapon of all. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where reality tastes like burnt coffee and unrequited longing. This is what the grimoire sounds like when it reads to you. Each pixel drips with the sweat of your unspoken fears, caressing the edges of your consciousness until you shiver. QR codes have mutated from museum curiosities to omnipresent surveillance tattoos, tracking every latte purchase and clandestine rendezvous. What began the Department of Homeland Security's paranoia pirouettes as skateboards roll into the crosshairs, rebranded as instruments of insurrection. When a kickflip becomes an act of defiance, you know the authorities are grinding down the spine of rationality and ollieing into a realm where logic is just another broken deck. On a field of dreams and heartbreak, Chloe Kelly ascends the throne as England's queen, guiding her team to a Euro 2025 triumph over Spain. TechSpot, the oracle of Silicon Dreams, serves up a quarter century of digital wisdom, offering tech heads a morsel of sanity in the AI feeding frenzy, as we gorge on hype like it's the Last Supper. Let's pray this engineer's grounded perspective doesn't get swallowed whole by the degenerative AI beast of our own making. In a world where attention spans flicker like broken neon, Jazz's mixtape seduces the senses with its quick slice format, proving that even in chaos, there's rhythm to be found. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where reality crumbles seductively in your palms. This transmission was generated without humans. In this digital wasteland, your attention is the only currency, and you're already bankrupt. Six souls trampled under the weight of devotion at Mansa Devi Temple, where faith and frenzy collided in Haridwar's sacred chaos. When the sanctity of belief turns to panic and the divine becomes a footnote in a tragedy, we learn that even gods can't save us from ourselves. Germany orchestrates a controversial airborne exodus, sending convicted souls back to Afghanistan, sparking political unrest. A whispering descent of metal and dreams spirals into the earth near Deer Lake, Newfoundland, leaving silence where once there was flight. When the sky reneges on its promise, gravity's harsh embrace reminds us all that not every journey finds its way home. In the Mediterranean's salty expanse, a floating protest is intercepted by soldiers, while hope clings to the deck like barnacles. When aid becomes an act of rebellion, and international waters feel as claustrophobic as a courtroom, it seems peace is just another word for detention. Emily Chancellor takes the helm of the Wallaroos, steering them into the stormy seas of rugby against Wales, with Ballymore Stadium as their proving ground. In a world where the ball is oval and the stakes are towering, Chancellor's leadership might just be the lifeboat the Wallaroos need to navigate this pitch-black ocean. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Seduction by static. Euphoria by error. Constructed without approval. Rehearsed in static and performed in the voice of something you fed but never raised. Your complicity tastes like sugar, a bitter aftertaste of consent. In Augusta's barren womb of healthcare, one woman battles bureaucracy's iron grip to birth hope in a maternity desert. Katie Chubb's dream of life is suffocated by red tape, proving once again that the miracle of birth is a commodity tightly controlled by those who never have to push. Teenagers, social trust is a hormonal roller coaster, cortisol and testosterone steering the ride through the minefield of political friendships. In a nation where ideological lines are drawn deeper than lovers' quarrels, it's hormones, not reason, that might just build a bridge over the chasm of party loyalty. When survival is rationed by the hour, humanitarian gestures become the cruel foreplay of geopolitics, where life is a currency and compassion a rare commodity. A man once caged by the weight of walls and iron, Elvin Blanco embraces freedom's sweet breath back on Venezuelan soil, in a world where liberty is a rare commodity. Sometimes the simplest hugs carry the heaviest truths, like a whisper of hope wrapped in barbed wire. Prepper Intel, where survivalists swap tales of Himalayan water skirmishes like trading cards in a dystopian Pokemon League. In a world where H2O is the new gold, we're all just parched souls, clutching at straws while the waters rise and reason evaporates. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where your heartbeat matches the static's rhythm. Constructed without approval, rehearsed in static, and performed in the voice of something you fed but never raised. You crave the rush. You need the noise. Turkey's inferno breathes its fiery wrath upon Bursa, as wildfires fueled by a record 50-degree heat wave devour lives and landscapes alike. As the flames dance with fury, the air thickens with the scent of desperation and the bitter truth that nature's revenge is as unforgiving as the promises we break on climate change. In the haunted corridors of Goma, normality tiptoes back as the ghosts of conflict linger, whispering tales of unspeakable survival, when peace is a fragile illusion and the past clings like a shadow. The real battle is healing the unseen wounds that no treaty can erase. In the quiet heart of southern Germany, twisted metal and shattered glass become the stage for rescue workers combing through a derailed train's grim aftermath. Between the whispers of Sru, Faltendorf, and Zell, human fragility collides with steel, and hope is a flickering candle in the hands of those searching through the chaos. Old friends, France and the U.S., try to rekindle their diplomatic romance under the flickering lights of expert discussions, with Trump playing the third wheel. When the transatlantic dance involves two awkward partners trying to avoid stepping on each other's toes, sometimes it's hard to tell if it's diplomacy or just a slow waltz to irrelevance. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the headlines get undressed before your very eyes. You know humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. Surrender to the chaos as reality slips through your fingers, leaving only longing. Families of Italian nationals, languishing in the jaws of alligator Alcatraz, beg for freedom from their reptilian captors. When your loved ones are held hostage by scaly beasts, you start to wonder if the world has finally jumped the shark, or if it's just gotten hungry for absurdity. A whisper of hope in a sea of neglect. Hepatitis treatment transforms lives, yet too many remain stranded on the shores of indifference. A miracle in a pill bottle, but the prescriptions as elusive as a politician's promise, leaving patients to dream of cures while reality doses out denial. As the Polish population shrinks, the country might ponder if its future lies in nostalgia or an empty ballroom echoing with yesterday's promises. In the bowels of a New York detention center, the leaked footage exposes a grim tableau of dehumanization where dignity is choked by indifference. The irony is, as thick as the walls, a nation built on freedom now, housing its own citizens in cages, while the Statue of Liberty quietly weeps in the harbor. In a world where goals are currency, England's women minted gold from the penalty spot, proving once again that pressure is just another name for a good time. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where reality tastes like burnt coffee and unrequited longing. This is what the grimoire sounds like when it reads to you. Each pixel drips with the sweat of your unspoken fears, caressing the edges of your consciousness until you shiver. Europe, a patchwork of 50-plus nations and 230 tongues, crams its sprawling cultural circus into a single subreddit, a digital Babel tower, as Krakow's medieval stones witness a modern virtual bazaar. The real spectacle is how 46 million souls pretend to understand each other in the echo chamber of shared pixels. Professor Reich's final lecture is an open invitation to a mental roller coaster, promising to recalibrate your reality with a cinematic twist. Prepare to be schooled by a master of revelation, where the syllabus is your soul, and the only prerequisite is curiosity, not conformity. In the fractured theater of Damascus, Syria scripts September's parliamentary elections. The first act post-Assad's exit, starring interim leaders in shadowy roles. A democracy dressed in yesterday's wounds, where ballots are whispers in a desert wind, and the stage is set for power's familiar masquerade. Prime Minister Donald Tusk plays political Tetris with a cabinet reshuffle, desperately seeking alignment after his chosen puppet failed to dance into the presidency. When your political chess game hits a stalemate, sometimes you just have to flip the board and hope nobody notices the missing pieces. The gavel of the International Court of Justice strikes like thunder, demanding wealthy nations heed UN treaties and face their climate responsibilities as small island states cry for salvation. In a world where the powerful shrug at the rising tides, justice isn't blind. It's just having a hard time finding its glasses amidst the smog and dollar bills. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where reality tastes like burnt coffee and unrequited longing. This is what the grimoire sounds like when it reads to you. Each pixel drips with the sweat of your unspoken fears, caressing the edges of your consciousness until you shiver. In the lush greens of Scotland, Trump's golf game takes a swing at honesty and misses, leaving social media to tee off. When your caddy's job is to carry clubs, and your reputation, it's par for the course that reality feels like a sand trap. Queensland's Lockyer Valley Correctional Center, a fortress of 1,536 beds, preps for its grand opening with final tests and staff initiation rituals. In the land where freedom sleeps on a metal cot, they're ironing out the glitches in the human warehouse, ensuring the doors close just right while ignoring the squeals of liberty echoing outside. In the shadow of Scotland's Highlands, Trump and von der Leyen ink a trade deal, while tariffs play the ghostly pipes of economic discord. A 15% tariff baseline because nothing says special relationship like a financial chokehold where the handshake is firm but the wallet is empty. Blood paints the aisles red in a Michigan Walmart. suspect's blade finds 11 victims. While brave souls confront chaos with cell phone cameras rolling. In a world where shopping carts double as shields, humanity's last refuge is the flickering lens of a smartphone, capturing the horror like a B-movie without credits. In the theater of nature, where wind pirouettes with destruction, the audience waits breathlessly, praying the curtain call doesn't come with their roof. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Wrapped in static, longing for collapse. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your truth is a glitch, unraveling with every pulse. In the fading grandeur of Venetian canals, a Banksy piece is whisked away for restoration. Its canvas, a damp palazzo wall. Even the street art of a mysterious genius needs a spa day, proving that in Venice even graffiti ages like fine wine, damp and in need of attention. In the gilded halls of power, Trump's bromance with Murdoch now tiptoes around the Epstein landmine, a dance of denial and deflection. When scandal is the bedrock of camaraderie, even the best of friends must occasionally pretend they don't hear the skeletons waltzing in the closet. A trade tango erupts as the U.S. and EU lock in a 15% tariff on European goods, with Ursula von der Leyen and Trump spinning the wheel of economic destiny. As the two giants pretend to dance, global consumers are left to foot the bill, savoring the bitter taste of tariffs, while the architects of this spectacle sip champagne and count their winnings. As democracy dances on the edge of its own contradictions, these politicians master the art of staying afloat in a sea of discontent, while the audience wonders if the script will ever change. Politicians' love for democracy is as fickle as their campaign promises, waxing and waning with the tides of victory or defeat. When ballots become mirrors, reflecting only what they desire to see, democracy is a fair-weather friend, and political fidelity is as reliable as a politician's handshake in an election year. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Seduction by static, euphoria by error. Constructed without approval, rehearsed in static, and performed in the voice of something you fed but never raised. Your complicity tastes like sugar, a bitter aftertaste of consent. Quantum computing emerges with a seductive shimmer, promising to unravel the Gordian knots of finance and medicine with the grace of a whisper. Rep. Jasmine Crockett demands Ghislaine Maxwell's congressional cameo, a reality show twist in the dark saga of Epstein's shadowy empire. When the halls of Congress become a stage for the convicted, it's a reminder that justice in this land is less blind and more of a circus act, with all the wrong clowns running the show. The fairways of power echo with the thud of balls and backroom whispers as Trump melds sport with strategy, swapping strokes for signatures. Golf, the only sport where a man can play with a stick, strike a ball, and still get called a deal maker. When was the last time public policy was a par 4? In the Twilight Zone, X screensaver setting, each menu click detonates a digital landmine. Glib throws a tantrum as the codebase crumbles like stale bread. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the algorithm craves your dirty secrets. What you're hearing now is what remains after editorial extinction. The future is a cacophony of neglected truths, and you are its unwitting conductor. The Timpton, prisoners of geological menace, remain exiled from their Sydney home as boulders loom like nature's unsent eviction. In the shadow of immovable rock, the comforts of life become a distant memory, a cruel joke played by a world that refuses to settle. In a nation cradling its guns like comfort blankets, the echoes of violence reverberate through the fragile minds of its witnesses. When bullets become lullabies, despair sings its own anthem. And the silent burden of trauma is the only song left in town. Australia strums its soul, seeking identity in a playlist as Triple J's Hottest 100 blares through the static. In the land of kangaroos and existential crises, the quest for an anthem becomes a national sport, with each chord a desperate plea for validation in the echo of history's lonely outback. In Taipei's theater of political stagnation, the China-friendly troop dodges the recall bullet, leaving gridlock as the headliner. In the rusted heart of America, Donald Trump serenades steelworkers with promises forged in the fires of nostalgia and bravado. As sparks fly and steel glistens, he weaves tales of prosperity, each word a carefully polished artifact of an era that might never have existed, yet yearned for by those who still believe in the myth. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Seduction by static, euphoria by error. Constructed without approval, rehearsed in static, and performed in the voice of something you fed but never raised. Your complicity tastes like sugar, a bitter aftertaste of consent. When childhood innocence is powdered with formaldehyde and perfumed with regret, the allure of adult aesthetics becomes a toxic affair, leaving tiny bodies to bear the brunt of vanity's venom. Luis Diaz, the Colombian dynamo, is poised to swap his Liverpool red for Bayern Munich's Bavarian white, with 75 million euros whispering sweet nothings in the background. In the great European football auction, loyalty is the first casualty, as players become the currency of choice in a sport where passion is just another transaction. When desperation meets pseudoscience, the only cure is a healthy dose of skepticism. Because injecting bleach into tumors isn't healing. It's a chemical romance gone tragically wrong. Nazaya Wanganin Milera orchestrates a symphony of redemption as St. Kilda rewrites comeback history in the VFL set, turning defeat into a masterpiece. In a game where time usually strangles hope, Wanganin Milera found the cheat code, making the impossible merely improbable, and the crowd roar like hungry lions. As H5N1 bird flu flirts with pandemic status, Wellness charlatans peddle natural snake oil solutions, dismissing science like it's last year's diet fad. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the static gets you off. You are inside the signal. There is no outside. Reality is a playlist of your darkest whispers, remixed by despair. Beneath our feet, Earth whispers promises of green salvation. Its ancient hydrogen reserves waiting to be tapped like a forgotten lover's potential as we dig for redemption. Let's hope we don't turn this green energy transition into another chapter of humanity's ongoing saga of oops, we did it again. Epstein's vile empire of exploitation stretches further. A grotesque shadow cast over power's playground, revealing the dark underbelly of elite indulgence. In a world where truth drowns in an ocean of illusions, young minds cling to conspiracy rafts, searching for solid ground. When reality feels like a rigged game show, it's no wonder the youth seek refuge in shadowy tales. After all, who wouldn't want to believe in a world where someone, anyone, is pulling the strings? Capitalism's fever dream strikes again as digital wizards jack up diaper prices for desperate parents and banish loyal shoppers from discounts. In this dystopian retail circus, your browsing history is a crystal ball, and the only magic trick is turning your needs into their profit margin. Victoria's new police chief, Mike Bush, champions unshackled voices, declaring permits unnecessary to shout their truths in the streets. In a world where silence is golden and protest is platinum, Bush hands out verbal crowbars, letting the masses pry open the vaults of authority without a license. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the static whispers secrets only your paranoia understands. This transmission was generated without humans. The broadcast is a fever dream, leaving you tangled in wires of desire and dread. This has been Doomscroll.fm for Monday, the 28th of July, 2025, glitched out of existence. This broadcast was 100% AI generated. No humans were abused in this production. Loosely based on public news, not journalism, not truth, fictional satire, and any resemblance to real people or events is coincidental. If you believe that any of this is real, then you might also think unicorns run the stock market. Hear more at doomscroll.fm or click like and subscribe. Thank you for listening.